You're watching Euronews now. I'm Takumbo Salako with your top stories. The war in Ukraine takes on a new troublesome dimension as the United States says Russia has now struck a deal with Iran to be supplied with weapons-capable drones. The heat wave spreading across Europe has already caused death and destruction in Portugal. Now Spain has raised its alert levels. And a new window into the history of our universe opens with the most detailed pictures of stars from 13 billion years ago. We'll look into the skies with NASA's James Webb Telescope.
As Russia prepares to drive deeper into eastern Ukraine, the White House has announced that Iran is preparing to provide Moscow with armed drones to use in its armed offensive.
That our information indicates that the Iranian government is preparing to provide Russia with up to several hundred UAVs, including weapons-capable UAVs, on an expedited timeline.
On the ground, Ukrainian rescue services announced that the death toll in the Russian rocket attack in Chasiv Yar in eastern Ukraine rose to 30 on Monday. 9 people were rescued from the rubble.
Gas has stopped flowing through the Nord Stream 1 pipeline, which connects Germany directly with Russia through the Baltic Sea. It's shut down for maintenance and a scheduled annual inspection. But politicians in Europe fear that Moscow could decide not to turn the gas back on in the increasingly standoff situation over the Ukraine war. Euronews reporter Kate Brady from Berlin has more.
There's a harsh reality setting in here in Germany, and that is that if indeed Nord Stream 1 is not switched back on again, then Germany simply will not be ready. The head of Germany's energy regulator has warned in recent weeks that Germany currently has only about 2 to 3 months worth of gas in storage, and there is now that real concern that Nord Stream 1 won't be turned back on again in what would be seen as a political move here in Berlin by Russia. So Germany at the moment is scrambling to find other energy sources, but really there's only mid to long-term solutions, or measures rather, to ease the impact of a potential gas shortage on the table. So already we've seen plans passed for an expansion of onshore wind farms, coal-fueled electricity plants are being fired back up again. But none of that is going to really help overnight. So Robert Habeck, the Energy, Economy and Climate Minister, did say on Monday that European solidarity will indeed be necessary. But ultimately, Germany is preparing for the worst-case scenario right now. We could potentially see rationing in a worst-case scenario in the coming weeks and months. And the public, too, are also preparing. They're being encouraged by the government to reduce their energy consumption already in a bid to try and save the gas that Germany currently has. So they are, too, preparing for the worst-case scenario and what might be a very long, expensive and cold winter here in Germany. Kate Brady, Euronews, Berlin.
Europe's expanding heatwave has reached the Iberian Peninsula. Spain has already suffered one bout of extremely hot weather this season. Now most communities are on a high temperature alert again. Andalusia and Extremadura are 2 of the regions where the mercury is expected to reach the highest levels.
I don't know what time of the day to go out, because it's so hot all the time.
Between the 12th and 14th of July, the maximum temperature will exceed 35 degrees in almost all of Spain. In many cities, it will exceed 40 degrees. The purple colours here show where there is danger of wildfires breaking out. As you can see, much of Iberia is at high risk. And in some areas the situation is already critical. Forest fires in Portugal have left 29 people injured this week. The country is in a state of contingency until midnight on Friday due to exceptionally high temperatures and a heightened risk of more blazes. During the state of contingency, individuals can be prosecuted if they do not comply with restrictions, such as a ban on fireworks. Meanwhile, in Rome, authorities suspect that criminals are behind a series of fires over the past month. They have caused widespread damage, sending huge plumes of smoke over the city, raining ash down on its inhabitants.
Vice President.
One little speck of the universe. At a White House event, the world got to see its first full-colour picture from the new James Webb Space Telescope. President Joe Biden unveiled the photo showing our universe brimming with galaxies. The image is the farthest humanity has ever seen into space. In part of this shot is light from not too long after the Big Bang, which was 13.8 billion years ago.
It's a new window into the history of our universe. And today we're going to get a glimpse of the first light to shine through that window. Light from other worlds, orbiting stars, far beyond our own. It's astounding to me when I read this.
Rainforest to the edge of time itself.
The €10 billion James Webb Space Telescope was launched in December last year. It will make all sorts of observations of the sky, but it has two overarching goals. One is to take pictures of the very first stars to shine in the universe more than 13 billion years ago. The other is to probe far-off planets to see if they might be habitable. The first photo will be followed by 4 more galactic beauty shots from outside our solar system.
Well, let's peer a bit deeper now into that incredible image sent back to Earth by NASA's James Webb Telescope. Joining us to help us look into it is Mark McCaughrean. He's a senior advisor for science and exploration at the European Space Agency. Well, thanks for taking time to speak to us here on the programme. We just heard in the package before that the US president described this as a new window into the history of the universe. Have you been disappointed by this image, or what were you expecting?
No, not at all. I mean, I must admit I had seen the image last week, and we're preparing to release more images here today from the European Space Agency, of course, part of the mission with the Canadian Space Agency and NASA. So that first image, which went out last night, in a sense represents one of the ultimate goals of James Webb Space Telescope, which is to look back to the beginning of the origins of galaxies and stars in our universe 13.8 billion years ago. So by no means was it a disappointment. In fact, it's doing exactly what we hoped it would, the mission we dreamed of more than 30 years ago, and I've been involved for 24 years. This is exactly what we were aiming for, and yeah, it's surprisingly good, if you like, for just one of the very first images in a mission that could last 20 years.
You've just given us a very detailed description of what we're expecting. Visually, what can we be expecting to see? Perhaps you've already seen some of these images because you had a preview of this image already a week ago.
Yes, well, of course, I'm being on the inside of the project. I've seen all of the pictures we'll be presenting today. We've been doing lots of rehearsals and so on. So they won't come as a surprise to me, but hopefully they'll come as a great surprise to many in the public who will be looking at them. We're going to be showing images not only from the very distant universe, but we're looking at galaxies more nearby and how they interact, how galaxies collide and spew stars out through space, through gravity. We're going to be presenting some results from exoplanets, so planets around other stars outside of our solar system. And this is another big goal of James Webb Space Telescope. Can we measure the atmospheres of those planets? And can we see if they're potentially habitable? So we've got a really interesting array of science results later on today. But again, this is just the pictures, if you like, on the floodgates, painted on the floodgates. Now the floodgates are about to open. And every day that goes by, we get more and more data. So by Christmas time, we'll have 30 times more data than we're showing you today. So it's a remarkable period, a transformative mission just about to unleash its power.
The Taliban shot me on the left side of my forehead. They shot my friends too. They thought that the bullet would silence us, but they failed.